The timetable was so tight for this movie that some of the editors would work 36 to 48 hours without stopping, and some of them even broke into tears just based on how exhausted they were. So when it comes to Disney sequels, I think this is maybe one of the best sequels that's been made. Disney's kind of hit or miss when it comes to their sequels, but Toy Story 2 is really well done. Great storyline, great plot, great character developments. We got some new characters in there. One of the driving forces behind this movie is how the roles are reversed in this movie. In the first Toy Story, we had Woody going to rescue Buzz, and we learned all about Buzz Lightyear and his history, his backstory, you know, how he had to come to grips with who he was. But now in this one, we got Buzz and everybody trying to rescue Woody, and we get into a lot of Woody's backstory and his history. And through learning all this about Woody, we meet Jesse, Bullseye, and Stinky Pete, who were part of the original Roundup gang, which was really cool to see all this just really well fleshed out backstory for Woody. Learning more about Woody and how he came to be and how big of a star he really was back in the 50s and the 60s. A lot of the inspiration that they got for Woody's Roundup was drawn from real life shows from the 50s and 60s. One of my favorite scenes in this movie, when Woody gets cleaned up and he gets his arm stitched back together, I thought that scene was probably the most beautiful scene in the whole movie. Just how clean it looks. Just like Buzz in the first Toy Story movie. Woody had an identity crisis and he wanted to stay with Jesse and Stinky Pete and Bullseye. Pete kind of got into Woody's head with the whole Andy growing up and, you know, he's going to be forgotten. And Woody obviously doesn't want to ever be forgotten by Andy. But just the whole convincing that Woody needed in this movie to realize that, yeah, Andy will grow up. Woody said he doesn't want to miss that for the world. So just a lot of really beautiful character arcs. I think Jessie is a really great character in this movie. She just added a lot more to just the depth of a relationship between a toy and their owner. And there's actually a crazy theory out there that Jessie's owner, Emily, is actually Andy's mom, which actually makes a little bit of sense because you can see Andy's love for his toys. And maybe that's a genetic thing that Emily passed down to him because she loved playing with Jessie just as much as Andy loves playing with Woody and Buzz and all of his other toys. So there's no hard proof of that, obviously. I always thought that's a really solid theory, and it makes that scene the most heartbreaking scene in the movie, where we get Sarah McLachlan's song, When Somebody Loved Me, and you get Jessie just saying how sad it was losing Emily as an owner. You know, it just makes that impact so much deeper when, you know, Woody has that fear of losing Andy. So when it's all tied together, it just makes for such a profound story. This is just such a great movie. There's so much comedy in it, but there's so much heartfelt moments too. And I highly recommend if you haven't checked it out in a while. It's on Disney Plus because, you know, I haven't seen it in a while, but it's one of those movies where you're gonna kind of go back to it and just see how well it was actually done, because Toy Story 2 went through a lot of crazy changes. There was one instance where it was almost deleted by accident. They were able to save it, they had a backup of it, and it ended up winning tons of Academy Awards and set a record for Pixar. So for Toy Story 2, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 Mudflaps. And as always, leave a thumbs up and drop in the comments below who's your favorite character from Toy Story 2. See you next time.